All right, thanks, Raphael. So I take it most of you know what BitPay is. You know, we help businesses accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. That's the only thing that we do. We think it's really important because what good is a currency if you can't actually spend it anywhere? And so this is our mission, is to try to actually build an economy where you can spend Bitcoins. When Steve and the guys invited me to Austin, I said, well, this is going to be a cool place for a Bitcoin conference because Austin is a great city for lots of live music. And you know, I know the Keep Austin Weird shirts, and I was just so excited when you guys made the Keep Bitcoin Weird shirt, so I made sure I got one of those. But we have quite a bit of you know, our customer base here, and there's a lot of Bitcoin activity in the Austin area. You know, for example, Cointerra that you know of. Right? You know, these guys are making the Bitcoin mining rigs. They're here in town. We also have a company called Flex Solar Cells. They're also here in town. They've been a merchant for a while, so they sell solar panels that you can install on your house. Now, it would be really interesting if we can actually get somebody to get some Flex Solar Cells and use it to power a Cointerra miner. Now, then we know that we've truly succeeded. We're also going to be here for the next couple of days at South by Southwest. So we have a booth at the Interactive Festival, and we're going to be educating people about Bitcoin, whether they want to learn how to set up a wallet or trade it or accept it at their business, or they're just curious about it. So there's a lot of Bitcoin activity going on right here in town, this weekend. When I speak to different types of groups, whether they're programmers or business guys, I like to start with the slide, not because it's a cartoon, but it does prove a point. And so I asked the audience, and I'll ask you guys, you know, who can tell me what is wrong with that picture? Right. That's not Ned Flanders. That is Homer Simpson. But he's got Ned Flanders' credit card, and he's going to go shopping on the internet, and he's going to do a lot of damage. Why is that? Well, credit cards were never designed for the internet. They were designed in the 1950s, and there's a picture of one, an American Express card. And so look at it from the 1950s. What does it have? It has your name, it has your account number, it has an expiration date, April 30th, 1959, and it's got a signature. So what has changed with credit cards in 55 years? Yeah. They've added a magnetic stripe. That's one thing they've added. And you have a 3-digit code on the back. Those are the two things that credit cards have done for us in 55 years, is a 3-digit code on the back and a magnetic stripe. So when we try to use this technology in a way that it was never designed or intended for, it causes a lot of problems. It's a situation called the card's not present. When you use your card in the store and you swipe the mag stripe, there's extra security features in that stripe that authenticate that that card really is there in person. When you try to use it on the internet, you don't have a card reader in your machine, so you're just able to type in the account number, and you're relying on the network to validate that it's really you. And there's a lot of risks in this. You know, the biggest sources of identity theft are when people shop online. And this is a number that comes out every year from the FTC. And last year, over 12 million people became victims of identity theft, mostly from shopping online. The flip side of this is payment fraud. If you're a business and somebody pays you with a credit card, and it turns out later that that credit card was stolen at the time, it is your fault as a business that you took a stolen credit card, even if the bank approved it. Banks don't take responsibility for the fraud. They make the businesses pay. You know, business gets a chargeback. When the cardholder calls their bank and says, "It wasn't me," that bank has departments full of people, and they have to go and undo all these transactions, and you're the merchant. If one of them happened to be you, you got to fight to actually keep that money. And so businesses are estimated to lose over $100 billion a year in payment fraud. This number comes from LexisNexis. They do a study every year called the True Cost of Fraud. And it's not just the initial fraud that's the problem, but it changes people's buying habits. Because if you were a victim of identity theft and you can figure out which store took your information, you're probably not going to go shop there again, even if it wasn't that store's fault. It could be somebody else that got your card, right? So it does affect businesses, and it affects their revenue. So why would merchants want to accept Bitcoin? Well, it would only make sense that something that we design now, after the internet, is going to be superior to something that we designed 50 years ago. But the main benefits that merchants are excited about are it's lower risk, right? It's lower risk than every other form of payment that they take. There's no risk of fraud. There's no risk of chargebacks. It's a much more certain and final payment system. It's also lower cost. Typically costs, 1/3 or even less than what a credit card charges. So in addition to being lower risk and lower cost than every other form of payment that a merchant takes, it also can open up a merchant to a global customer base. If you take Bitcoin, suddenly the entire world who has Bitcoins can be a customer of your service. And so it really is a borderless payment system. And that's what we're excited about. One other reason, this just happened to come up recently, merchants don't want to be a target for identity thieves. This problem is not over. These credit cards that were compromised from Target were used at many, many other stores. And every gym membership that had those credit cards on file, right? When they do their rebills, those credit cards are all going to fail. And so guess what? That gym owner gets to get on the phone and call his customers and say, hey, please provide me another form of payment. So there's huge ripple effects every time that this identity theft occurs. I have a credit card in my wallet from Chase. It's been replaced 3 times in the last 3 months, right? And it's a pain for me to have to go out and constantly update, where I have this stored on file. So merchants like the fact that, they don't have to worry about PCI compliance and securing all this data. It becomes a much easier system for them. So just a little bit of history on BitPay. We were started in May of 2011, so that makes us pretty old in the Bitcoin space. I think when we started, Mt. Gox was the only other Bitcoin company around at the time, and they're not around anymore, so I guess we're the oldest guy now. Not sure if that's a good thing or bad, but we have been around a while. We only do one thing, and that's help businesses accept Bitcoin. We don't have a wallet. We don't run an exchange. We just focus on payment acceptance at businesses. We chose Atlanta to be our headquarters because Atlanta is the headquarters today in this country for all types of electronic merchant transactions. First Data, TSYS, Elevon, Global Payments, WorldPay, all of them are there. The infrastructure is there. The banking system is there. The regulators understand exactly what our business model is because there's probably 1 million people that work in the same industry in our town. And we're also able to start hiring people from these companies to come work for us. Some numbers from last year, we did over 200,000 transactions last year, and the total value of those was over $107 million. So that was nice. That was up from $3 million that we did the year before. So we had pretty good growth last year. But it also shows that our average order was about $500, maybe $503. And that's interesting because when you compare this to Amazon, for example, last time I looked, their average order size was maybe $150 to $160. So we're 3 times the size. And so we're showing that Bitcoin is a safe payment method to do high volume and high ticket purchases online. If you wanted to sell something online for $100,000, you're not going to run that on a credit card. One of our merchants is Richard Branson with Virgin Galactic. He sells a $250,000 ticket into space. You could probably put that on an Amex Black card, but can you imagine the fees that Amex would charge Richard Branson for a $250,000 transaction? Right? We did it for him for 30 bucks. So we started in Atlanta, but we're spreading out. We recently announced, I think yesterday, that we've got an office in Buenos Aires. We have 6 people down there. We've got 1 business development person, and we have a team of 5 engineers. We also have 2 people in San Francisco, and we've got 2 people in Amsterdam. We're going to announce those later this month when they actually move into their offices. But we're up to 30 people now worldwide. So we've got 20 in Atlanta and 10 combined in the rest of the offices. So what have we built really? Well, we've gone ahead and tried to build the tools that businesses need to be able to accept Bitcoin, because Bitcoin doesn't work anything like credit cards or PayPal or anything else that they already know how to process. But can we build tools for them that kind of mimic what they're used to? So if they are running their own web store in either Magento or WordPress or Drupal, chances are there's a plugin out there for the different payment methods, whether it's PayPal or credit cards, and they just install that plugin and magically it appears in their checkout and customers are able to pay. So we went ahead and built a bunch of these. We've got about 20 of them. So if you're using any of the popular e-commerce platforms that people run their websites on, you can install a BitPay plugin and it appears in your checkout for your customers. We've also gotten integrated into Shopify, and Shopify is a different type. That's a SaaS model. So instead of you running your own web store and have the ability to kind of modify it as you wish, with Shopify, you pay them a monthly fee and they run your web store for you, which is great. But you're kind of at the mercy of whatever payment options they let you choose. So we went up there to Canada and we got integrated with these guys, and now BitPay is available to 80,000 of their merchants. Each one of them has to turn it on. So far, maybe 2,000 of them have actually turned it on and created accounts, but the option is there for all 80,000 of Shopify merchants to potentially start adding Bitcoin. On the retail side, we're working on some integrations with the traditional point of sale. So if you go into a restaurant and you look at what they're using to check out their systems, it's usually some type of a point of sale terminal that keeps track of the tickets and the servers and the tips and all that stuff. So we've integrated with 2 of them already. Soft Touch is more of a restaurant point of sale. This is a company based out of Florida, Fort Lauderdale, and they've integrated us with them. They actually did a neat idea. When their point of sale closes out a tab or prints a tab, when you say check please, they print a QR code on every ticket. So when they bring it to your table, it has a QR code on it. When you scan that QR code, up comes your itemized bill. So you're actually looking in the point of sale at your bill, and you can see itemized, yeah, I had this beer, this thing, and I'm ready to pay. You can actually pay and close out your tab from your phone, and then their system gets updated, and then you can walk away and leave. So that's a really neat integration that those guys did. New West Technologies actually did an integration with BitPay into Microsoft Dynamics, which is their retail management, inventory management system. So if you're a retailer that has a lot of inventory, you're probably using Microsoft, and so these guys are an integrator for Microsoft, and they integrated us into that system. So we're looking for additional opportunities in this space. For developers, we've got a great API, and we've got libraries, and I'm not sure if any of you participated in the hackathon, but we were over there as well, and we sponsor a lot of these types of events. So if you develop your own website, whether it's in Ruby or PHP or JavaScript or C# or Java, a few other languages, Python, we've got a library that you can basically integrate BitPay, and it gives you all the functions you need to compose an invoice, send it to us, and then process the callback when we tell you when it's done. So a little bit of a diagram of what we've actually built under the hood. So at the very bottom of this is the Bitcoin mesh network, right? These are all the nodes of the network that are communicating transactions. So we run multiple versions of Bitcoin D so that we make sure we stay in sync with the entire rest of the network. On top of that, we've built our core platform. And our core platform is our interface, our proprietary interface into the Bitcoin network so we can monitor what's going on, the addresses that we care about, the transactions that we care about. On top of this, we've built 2 different ways for merchants to actually interface with our system. So the first one, well, the one on the right, the HTML post, this is just something where you can just do a browser web post to our server to say, hey, BitPay, collect a payment. This is what we can use in our mobile checkout apps. This is what we can use if you just want to buy it now button. For those of you that have shopped at Bees Brothers and those guys, right, they're using the buy now buttons. It's just very easy for somebody to copy and paste HTML code into their website, and the button appears, and they can make a sale. But about 90% of our orders come in through our API or one of the libraries that we have on top of it. So on top of the API, we've got our PHP library. PHP is still really the power engine that runs most of the e-commerce out there today. So on top of the PHP library, we've got the plugins for Magento and OS Commerce and those types of things. We've also got libraries, like I mentioned, for Node, Ruby, Java, JavaScript. And then we've got the embedded carts like Shopify and others that I mentioned that have integrated our platform. Or companies can take their own custom implementation and talk directly to our API. So this is an idea of what our technology stack looks like. If you take out the Bitcoin and look at the platform and everything above it, these are all the exact same tools that almost every processor makes, right? Whether you're PayPal or your CyberSource or your Stripe, right? They have all the same stuff. So we built we've architected our tools in much the same way that they are familiar to merchants. So if you're a merchant and your developers have just got done integrating PayPal or integrating Stripe, they'll be like, well, crap, I can integrate BitPay and it'll take me like 5 more minutes because it works exactly the same way. And this is not easy to do because Bitcoin works in reverse, right? Bitcoin is not a pull transaction. Bitcoin is a push. You know, the customer actually pushes the money. So creating a system that mimics the way businesses use and interface with credit cards was not easy, but that's what we felt was needed for the marketplace. Part of what we do is, you know, maintaining a commitment to using all the open standards. You know, there's an incredible opportunity with Bitcoin to build a really open payment system. And every other payment system that we have in the world today is all closed and proprietary, right? Visa is closed, Amex is closed, PayPal is closed, everything else, the banks are closed, ACH and the like. The Fed system for wires is very closed. If you want to make a payment on one of those services, you have to be a member and pay a lot of fees to do something in their proprietary system. Bitcoin, by design, is an open payment system. It's the only open payment system that we have. And it's so open that anybody in this room can just download some software and start using it. Right? You don't have to ask anybody's permission. You don't have to be a member of any network. And you certainly don't have to pay a lot of fees. So in order to make sure that what we've built is not only compatible with this open payment system, but also enhances it, we hired Jeff Garzik. And Jeff is one of the core developers of Bitcoin. He's been working on Bitcoin since 2010, even before BitPay was around. And so he makes sure that everything that we do is compatible with the network, and we can actually contribute pull requests back and enhance the Bitcoin protocol. So, you know, we run multiple Bitcoin D nodes. We have to. We have to make sure, above all else, that even though it has bugs, we've got to stay in sync with the rest of the network. That's #1 priority. We've implemented BIP21, which is a Bitcoin URI. This is like a mail-to link. So if you're clicking on a website and you want to pay, it opens your wallet for you and precomposes the transaction. So that's been around for a little while. We've supported that for a long time. But recently, Jeff and a couple other guys on our team have implemented the payment protocol. And this is really cool. This is a series of 4 documents that kind of spell out a better way for BitPay to have a direct connection to the person's wallet, so that we can, #1, compose the transaction for them, #2, make sure they're attaching the proper fee, and then #3, you know, get the message that they actually send the payment directly to BitPay and not have to broadcast it to the network and then we go fish it out. It also allows us to securely sign these payment requests, because every time we generate a Bitcoin address, we make a new one. And so if I give you a Bitcoin address, how in the heck are you going to know that actually came from me? Because these things all look the same. They're 30 characters or 34, and they all just look like a bunch of cryptic crap, right? Nobody can really tell if you're paying the right address. So this is an example of what the payment protocol does. When you click a link on the BitPay invoice now to actually pay it, it'll open your wallet, and this is Bitcoin QT 0.9. So it'll compose the transaction for you, which it does already, but now it turns it green. And it turns it green because BitPay has signed this payment request with a certificate. Much like when you dial into a website, it validates your HTTPS, that you're actually viewing the website that you want to be viewing. So this functions much like your web browser when you dial into your online banking. So you know that you are talking to BitPay. On the Android client, it actually shows you right underneath the BitPay, this is verified by GoDaddy or whoever signed our certificate. So this works using much of the same technology that you use when you're browsing the internet and you want to make sure that you're actually talking to your online bank. You know, now you can be sure that your wallet is actually talking to BitPay. And there's nobody getting in the middle that's substituting the Bitcoin address where you're going to send money to some hacker. The other thing it does is it completely hides the Bitcoin address. You know, the address is no longer visible. You're paying BitPay. You know, you don't actually get to see the address. You can't change it. So there's really no point in showing it to you. It'll show up later on the blockchain if you really want to go fish for it. But this really is starting to abstract away all the low-level technical details of using Bitcoin addresses, right? The customer gets an option. They say, ooh, I want to pay BitPay. It turned green, so I'm certifying that I'm actually paying BitPay. And what the Bitcoin address doesn't really matter at that point. The other thing you see is where it shows the amount. Okay, this is composed for 1 Bitcoin. But you can't change the amount. So when you use the payment protocol, we say, have a direct line of communication to the person's wallet, and we say they need to pay BitPay, they have to pay us this amount, and they can't change that amount. They can only do two things at this point. They look at it, and they can either press send or cancel. That's it. And when all the wallets start adopting this feature, you're going to start to see Bitcoin payments become a lot cleaner. Because every time you either scan a QR code or hit the link, your wallet is going to pop up and say, this is exactly what you're doing. I've certified you're talking to BitPay. Do you want to send this, yes or no? And it can't really get much simpler than that. So we've been working on this for a while, and the only wallet live that's in production now you can download is on the Android store. It's Bitcoin Wallet. It's the one that Andreas does with Mike Kern from Google. This is the release candidate for Bitcoin QT 0.9 that should be released soon. But then other wallets are going to add this as well. So I think you're going to start to see a big increase in usability of Bitcoin once all the wallets start supporting the payment protocol. We're also a big advocate of a couple of open source initiatives, because we realize that whenever we go talk to merchants, no matter how good what we sell them is to them, they're like, wow, this is like a no-brainer. Why shouldn't we do this, right? This is amazing. But none of our customers are asking for this, and we have 100 other things that we have to be doing. So it becomes a matter of priority, right? We have a chicken and egg problem. How do we get more people out there using Bitcoin to start knocking on the merchant's door and say, hey, make this a priority? So there's a lot of initiatives to get Bitcoin more usable into people's hands. So what we've built, we started with Bitcoin.js, which was a JavaScript library, and we've been using it quite a bit, and we've actually published a nice library called Bitcore. Now this is something that any developer is going to really like if they want to build applications on Bitcoin. So if you're a developer and you say, hey, I want to make a Bitcoin application, you can either talk to the blockchain API or talk to Coinbase API or some other proprietary API that a company does, or with Bitcore, you can actually talk directly to Bitcoin. Right? You can get everything you need directly off the blockchain and off the mesh network. So this is what all the cool kids are going to be doing. So there's three parts of this. Well, actually more than that, but this is all we're willing to talk about at this point. So Bitcore, that's not seed financing. That should be a that's the main library. Sorry. Insight is a blockchain explorer. So everything you could do on Block Explorer, you can do on Insight. And this is the open source code that you can actually run your own version of Blockchain Explorer on your website and have direct access to all the calls that you would normally have to go to Block Explorer to do, right? You can do it yourself from your server now, directly onto the blockchain using these libraries. The other one that we're working on, the next thing that will be released, is cosign, and this is something that will allow multi-signature transactions to become a lot easier. So when you create a multi-signature transaction, you can create an address that requires more than one key to be able to spend from that address. And this is something that I think is going to be really important going forward. If Bitcoins are secured by multisig, you're not going to have the thefts and the hacks and all these bad headlines that we keep seeing every day. And so building multi-signature into your wallet is not easy. It requires a lot of work. And we're putting together an open source library that'll do two things. It'll help you create multiple keys. It'll help you take public keys and create a Bitcoin address that's multi-sig enabled. And then it'll also help you sign and cosign transactions to be able to broadcast them to the network, right? This works a little bit different than just a single key address broadcasting. So we're working on this, and this is the next thing that we're going to release, because we want to see multi-sig a lot more popular. And there's a lot of reasons why. So this is our part of it, but I'm kind of on a personal mission that I think we need to do a better job collectively of securing Bitcoin. We have way too many thefts and hacks and oops, I lost my key, or maybe it was an inside job and nobody really knows. So when I went today and I looked at the richest 100 addresses of Bitcoin, there was not a single one in that list that was secure with multisig. Not one. So almost 100% of all Bitcoin assets today are stored just with a single key. I'd like to set a goal that by the end of this year, I'd like to see 10% of the assets on the blockchain secured with multisig. And this is really easy to verify because a multisig address starts with a 3 instead of a 1. So it's public record. You can look on the Bitcoin richest list and see if any of them start with a 3 and start counting them. Hey, there's one. It's getting bigger and bigger, right? So these exchanges like Bitstamp and others that are securing a lot of funds, they need to start securing them with Multisig. You know, this is going to be a lot better, and I think it's going to help us move in the direction that Bitcoin needs to go to be a lot more usable and a lot more secure. So we're going to be releasing some open source libraries. We secure our own internal funds with Multisig, but we'd like to try to get some of the others in the community to do this as well. Getting back to the merchants, one of the things that merchants like about our service is that we let them choose how much risk they're willing to take on Bitcoin. Volatility risk, I mean. Of course, we help them bring Bitcoins in the front door. We have all kinds of tools for that, but then what? We let merchants either choose to keep the Bitcoins that come in which case we just sweep them to their wallet of choice, or we can settle to them every day into their bank account. And they can choose any percentage from 0% to 100 or and adjust it. So let's say, for example, that a merchant is really risk averse and they just say, you know what, I like the fact that I can accept Bitcoin. It's lower risk and lower cost, but holy cow, I don't want to secure it. I don't want any risk. Right? I don't want to try to tell my auditor what the heck I'm doing. Just give me dollars. And so this is what we can do. We guarantee the exchange rate for the merchants on every invoice, so they don't have any up or down volatility risk. BitPay absorbs that for that checkout window that we create. And then we can just put a bank settlement directly into their bank account every day, and we can do that now in 33 countries, the US, Canada, and the whole Eurozone. So this makes the reporting for these merchants a lot easier. They're asking us to collect dollars. We're giving them dollars. The fee they pay to us is in dollars. The Bitcoins are actually invisible to the merchant, right? They don't even know it exists. This is just a lower risk and lower cost way for them to get revenue and dollars into their bank account. To make it even easier for some small businesses, we went ahead and did an integration with QuickBooks. So from BitPay, you can go ahead and download your transaction history as a statement and import it into QuickBooks. And this will allow you to report and reconcile your revenue. So your Bitcoin sales that come in through BitPay can be listed side by side with your credit card sales, your PayPal sales, or your cash sales, or whatever else you put into QuickBooks. So this is really nice, and merchants really like this feature. So it makes accounting for and reporting your Bitcoin sales a lot easier. There is no GAAP reporting for Bitcoin, but we're doing the best we can at the advice of our accountants and our auditors, and so we're treating it as if it was a foreign currency. So if you're a US company and let's say you had some euros on the books, well, what would you do in that case, right? So we're treating Bitcoin as if it was a foreign currency for accounting purposes. So today we're growing pretty rapidly. It was in September that we crossed over 10,000 merchants. Well, we doubled that in the next 4 months, and now we're up over 26,000 merchants. So we're signing up anywhere between 600 and 1,000 merchants a week. Depending on the news cycle. When Bitcoin is in the news a lot, of course, we get a lot more signups. When it's kind of quiet, we don't. But where we're getting the most traction is kind of where you'd expect. Companies that are selling things over the internet have a lot higher cost and a lot more pain trying to collect a payment. So they're more than willing to try something new. Companies selling a high-ticket item, whether it's computers or cameras or iPads or cars or trips to space, right? If you are a criminal, I hope nobody in here is a criminal, but if you are a criminal and you get hold of a stolen credit card, what are you going to do, right? You're going to go out and buy the most expensive thing you can buy as quickly as you can before that card gets turned off. So you're going to buy computers, iPads, gold, jewelry, cameras, right? Anything that's expensive that you can get your hands on that you can convert to cash. So companies selling those types of high-ticket items are at the highest risk of getting hit with stolen credit cards. They're also typically companies that are selling stuff on really low margin. So, when they lose a sale because of a chargeback, they got to make 30 more sales to make up for that one that they lost. The other aspect that merchants are excited about is if they try to sell internationally. So if you're trying to collect a payment from a customer in a foreign country, that's a heck of a lot more risky and costly than trying to take it from somebody domestically. And when WordPress came out, probably a little over a year ago now, and started accepting Bitcoin, this was really important for them because WordPress by design is a global service, right? You can be anywhere in the world and sign up for WordPress and start publishing a blog. The problem with WordPress is that they have to give their service away for free to 2/3 of the world, completely free, because they can't take a payment. PayPal doesn't service half the world, and Visa, MasterCard don't serve about 70 to 80%. So they have to give their service away for free. People in those countries cannot buy upgrades or extra design packages or other things to enhance their website. And so WordPress was really excited about being able to actually monetize emerging markets. And this is true for people selling a virtual service or anybody actually shipping a hard good, right? The ability to collect a payment from an emerging market just got a heck of a lot easier with Bitcoin. So if a merchant is doing one of these things or two of these things or all three of these things, right, the more they're doing it, the more compelling reason they have to be an early adopter of Bitcoin right now. Because for the most part, customers are not beating down their door to accept Bitcoin, right? They have to be able to justify it themselves, and the more pain they have in trying to take payments, the more willing they are to try something new. So these are some of the high volume customers that we've integrated with. Gift is one that sells gift cards. That's a really, really neat mobile app. Zynga, of course, and Tiger Direct, those are the two publicly traded companies that accept Bitcoin on our platform. And then we also have a lot of major retail brands. I mentioned WordPress and Richard Branson, but we've also got the Lamborghini dealer in Newport Beach. That guy on average sells 5 to 10 cars a month. I mean, when you're selling a car like that, you're not going to be cranking them out, right? The first month that he started accepting Bitcoin, he sold 3 cars in a month, right? So that's a guy that had immediate impact on his business. We also have the Sacramento Kings. This is an NBA team. They accept Bitcoin at their arena. Even at their opening game, they had a big banner on the floor of the court, and that was kind of cool. So we're starting to get some companies very interested in it. These guys for the technology, these guys are looking at for the marketing, right? They want to be first. They want to be seen as innovative in their industry, and they're excited to try something new. So a little bit about BitPay on the backing. We did raise some money last year from some investors. We raised $2.7 million, which doesn't seem like a lot of money, but we've been extremely efficient with it. Our largest investor is Founders Fund. So this is Peter Thiel and Ken Howry. These are the original guys who founded PayPal and sold it off to eBay. So they are our largest investor. What we've done with that money is pretty good. We've given our balance sheet a 600% return on capital in 6 months. So we're pretty strong financially. Other companies in the space have raised $10, $20, $30 million, but we didn't have to raise that. We actually earned it. So we're very strong. But I think we'll probably go ahead and do a Series A financing this year. We've got some immediate objectives. We want to continue to expand internationally, especially into Europe. We need to hire people. We need to hire people here. So I think we're probably going to go ahead and raise some more money, even though we may not need it. We're probably going to do it anyway, because you should raise when the raising's good. And right now, the raising is good. We started out kind of like every transaction processor starts out by charging a transaction fee on everything that we do. So we started at 1%. We say, hey, credit cards are 2 to 3%, we're 1%, yay, we're cheaper. Isn't that great? But we realized really quickly that we can do something innovative. Because we're built upon an open payment system, we're not tied to interchange and all the legacy pricing structure that a lot of the credit card industry is built upon. So in October, we started our all-inclusive pricing. And this is interesting, right? This is a SaaS model. You pay us one monthly fee for the set of features that you need and the level of support that you want, and then have at it. Process all you want for no transaction fees. It's all-inclusive. There's no other payment processor in the world that offers this, and I don't think there's anybody that can offer this. They can't possibly, because they're all tied to the interchange and transaction fees. So we've got our small, medium size plans, and then we have our enterprise plan, $3 grand a month. But no transaction fees. And so this is interesting. When we have guys that are doing a couple $1 million a month with us, on for their credit cards, they probably be paying 60, 70 grand a month to process that through their credit cards. We charge them $3,000. They really like that. So the more volume you do with us, the bigger and bigger profit margins you make. This also provides some good stickiness, right? Once customers get successful with us, they typically don't switch. This is something we announced, and it came up in one of the earlier sessions. Is how do I get paid in Bitcoin? If I'm working a job, how can I ask my boss, hey boss, how do I get paid in Bitcoins? Well, how do you get dollars today, right? You earn them. So if you ask your employer, what payroll company are you using? Because we've developed a payroll API, and this is designed for the payroll providers like ADP and Paychex and others. It's designed to let employees opt in to getting part of their net pay in Bitcoin. So if you're a salaried employee, you have your gross salary, you may have some withholding, your FSA, you may have some garnishments, child support, whatever. You end up with your net pay. This allows you to take part of your net pay, and instead of getting it as a paper check or direct deposit, get that in Bitcoin. And we provided an API for the payroll provider or the employer to batch all these together and send us one batch. They can fund it, and then we can do the disbursements. So we can pay everybody out in Bitcoin. We've been doing this internally at BitPay for about 6 months with our payroll provider. And 100% of our employees opt in. Every single person takes at least some part of their net pay in Bitcoin. And we've got 4 of us. I'm one of them that take 100%. So whatever my net pay is, just pay me in Bitcoin. And it's great. I travel around the world, and every Friday, we get paid on Friday, my phone beeps, and I got paid, and I can immediately spend it no matter where I am. That doesn't really work if I have it put in my Bank of America account, right? If I'm in Europe at the time, I can't exactly get to it. So that's all I have. We've got plenty of time here, but I wanted to open it up to see if you guys had any questions.
Thank you very much, Tony. So yeah, questions. We could please start lining up right here.
My name is William Alexander, entrepreneur since a really long time, 18 years old. I think BitPay is amazing. You did mention that you support US, Canada, and Europe right now. So what are the plans right now to introduce currencies in Latin America?
Very good question. So in order for us to offer the full range of services that we offer, meaning if a company wants no volatility risk, they can get money in their bank account, we have to have a bank in that country. So if you're talking about, let's say, Brazil, for example, we have to set up a bank account in Brazil to be able to pay those merchants. Now, you can't just walk up to a bank in Brazil and get a bank account, right? You've got to get registered with the state. You've got to get in legal entities. You've got to file for VAT. You've got to do all the stuff just to get to that point. So it's a resource constraint. I mean, there's 200 countries in the world. We're going to eventually have bank accounts and entities in every single one of them. We're going to start Latin America in Argentina because I think they've got the biggest need for Bitcoin right now. But other countries in Latin America, we're looking very strongly at Brazil and at Chile. They seem to have a little bit more favorable environments to be able to just start up a company and get going. So yeah, absolutely. It's just a resource issue at this point, right? We got 30 people and we're trying to do everything in the world. Everything has to happen in a certain order. So we'll get there.
And we will only be taking these 4 more questions, and that will be it.
Hi, do you foresee BitPay accepting altcoins? And if so, when?
Possibly. So, the good thing about our platform is that it's currency agnostic. When merchants dial in and say, hey, BitPay, collect $100, we just do that and tell them when it's done. And because a lot of these alternative coins are just copies of Bitcoin, the calls that we would have to make to monitor the network are the same. So when we put ourselves in a position where we are guaranteeing a settlement to the merchant, we've got to make sure that whatever we take inbound is, number one, the most secure form of payment that we can get, but also the most liquid. So we've got to be able to make sure that we can convert that currency into cash as quickly as we can, for a good price. So some of the altcoins, there's an issue on the security side in terms of the mining. So there was one, I think Feathercoin happened to it, right? Somebody turned on an ASIC on the Feathercoin network, ran the difficulties up so high, then turned it off, and then nobody could ever mine a block again. So there's issues with some of them. We're monitoring them very closely. I mean, I think when you look at the amount of power that is being added to the Bitcoin network to enhance its security, that's by far the most secure today. If another one pops up that is just as secure, then we can add that because it really wouldn't take much time for us. But the good thing about digital currencies is that you can so easily convert one to the other. So if you're looking at an invoice and it's saying, hey, pay this many Bitcoins, and you're sitting on Litecoins, well, you can convert your Litecoin to Bitcoin and send the Bitcoins. So that's what Ripple did, right? Ripple wanted us to add Ripple, and we said no. So what they did is they built into their wallet the ability to convert on the fly XRP to Bitcoin and send the Bitcoins. So there's a lot of opportunities to get around it, right? You're dealing with digital currencies, and it's so easy to convert from one to the next.
Are you in the process of implementing an option to add a tip into your payment invoice?
Yes. Will you be here at South by Southwest?
I will be at South by Southwest. Is it just badges only, or are you just in a booth where anyone can walk up?
Yeah, we have a booth in the interactive show. It starts on Sunday.
Yeah.
But we're going to be demonstrating tipping ability in our booth at South by Southwest.
Yay. Thank you.
So, yes.
I have a real direct question versus Coinbase. There's something that has been kind of a disturbing trend for me, I see. Now, they have a wallet, so that's why this could even be possible. But there's a few merchants that are emerging that they will say that they accept Bitcoin on their site. But technically what they do is they require you to have a Coinbase account to send your Bitcoin. So really they don't accept Bitcoin. What they do is they accept people to internally you understand what I'm saying? I think most people do.
Okay, so that's not Bitcoin.
Right, exactly. Now,
that's not Bitcoin.
BitPay doesn't have a wallet. I'm just looking for a direct statement that that you stand against something like that, and that BitPay will never do anything similar.
I mean, I'm not going to say we're never going to have a wallet, but everything we do is on the blockchain. You know, we monitor transactions on the blockchain, and that's what we listen for, and that's what we go fish out. There may be opportunities down the road when you have, you know, micro payment channels and some other things where we may need to have a direct connection with the person's wallet. We'll probably never have a wallet of our own, but the payment protocol is a good start for that. But we're going to do it in a way where it's an open standard, and we would be compatible with anybody else's wallet that also supports that. So I'm not a big fan of off-chain accounting. I think that defeats the whole purpose of Bitcoin. When you store your Bitcoins at a company like Coinbase, you know, they're just giving you a credit. They're like, oh, you have 5 Bitcoins. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't, right? Only they know for sure. And when you want to go spend those, you're kind of at the mercy of whenever they get around to signing the transaction and broadcasting it to the network. So there's counterparty risk there, and I think that kind of defeats the purpose of Bitcoin being an open payment system. Are there opportunities where it makes sense? Yeah, but I think when you look at the whole network, you know, Coinbase has maybe 10% of the Bitcoin users, so that use case might be great for like 10% of the network, but that's not Bitcoin.
Hey, so I actually have one main question and a very short, small one. So first off, a lot of companies, especially smaller ones, are doing business through drop shipping online, where, of course, they'll accept the funds for the item, and then it's actually coming from a manufacturer, and they're paying the manufacturer for it. I guess my question is it currently in any way possible, or do you expect it to be possible in the future, that they can have specific to a SKU, they accept Bitcoin, but they get the amount that they owe the manufacturer in US dollars so that they can pay them, but they can still keep their portion in Bitcoin? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, this is something that they can set up on their account. They have to pick one split. So if they realize that their average margin is, say, 10%, they can set up their account that 90% goes in dollars to this bank account and 10% goes in Bitcoin to this Bitcoin wallet. You only get one Bitcoin wallet and one bank account, and you can adjust the percentage how much you want. So that would be a way that we can solve that today. If you wanted it split, hey, you know, into 3 different Bitcoin addresses or 3 different bank accounts, we can't do that. But in your use case, you know, what you want to do is make sure your supplier is covered in dollars and you want to keep the Bitcoins. That we can do today.
Gotcha. Then one more tiny question. So the small question is, who are, if you can say, any of the kind of bigger companies that you're either working with or hoping to soon get involved in BitPay?
Well, we can't talk about that. You'll hear it when we're ready.
Thank you very much, Tony, for being with us.
All right, thanks.